the 13th of April and we're standing in a 2-year-old orange tag blend, and you can see how nice and thick it is. The grass fields has come through the winter really well, but the winter wheat fields are an absolute disaster. There's only maybe about a dozen of them that had irrigation in the fall time that looked good. We're hoping to make up some of that forage on these newer seeding orange tag blends that look really good. So I took some pictures with the drone of some new seeding grass that's been put in. It's just starting to come up. It's been a total of 3 weeks since it's been in the ground. It should be out of the ground in about maybe 10 days, 2 weeks, but it's just starting to pop up now from the cold weather. So basically we've only had a couple highs around 14, 15, but last night again, it was frost again on all the grass fields again too. We can't seem to shake the winter. We have an enormously slow spring that we're working with. And the reason I want to talk to you about that as well too is that some people are all geared up to work up some of these old winter wheat fields that don't look very good and put them into corn early. But you got to be super careful. If you put them in too early, let's say by the end of April, the first couple days of May, that soil may not be warm enough. And so what I did a couple years ago, I went to Home Depot, or Rona has them as well too, just a Weber barbecue thing that you poke into the meat, but it pokes into the ground really well as well too. You go down about 2 inches, which is a corn depth that you're going to be planting at, and see what that temperature is at. If it's not above 63 degrees, that's too cold. You plant your corn then, it's definitely not going to come up very well. So you got to wait till the temperature in the soil comes up. A couple of guys I took pictures of, farmers that grow sweet corn, they're putting a netting over top which traps the heat in the soil, and even then it's kind of borderline as well. So we don't have that kind of labor and manpower to put our corn in early and then put a tarp over top, like a greenhouse tarp, to keep the heat in. That simply won't work for us. So again, be very careful what you're doing. Don't plant the corn too early. The best thing I would suggest to warm that soil up, if there's a bit of winter wheat coming but it's not enough to harvest, go out there and disc it up so you get some air in the soil and you dry it up. That temperature will come up an awful lot. Put your manure on it, work it in again, leave it black and work it up, and that'll get some heat in it. If you chisel plow it or you subsoil it or you disc it, any one of those 2 or 3 things is really good for the soil to get some air in. The air is a lot warmer than a moist soil. The worst thing you could possibly do is come into the winter wheat fields that aren't very good, come in there, dump on 8,000 to 10,000 gallons of manure one day, next day you plow it up, and then you work it up, and then 3 days later you're planting corn. That soil is going to be saturated wet, and it's going to be ice cold. It's just not good for it, especially in a year like this year where we have such a late spring. And looking forward on the long-range weather forecast, there's nothing that looks like it's going to be 23, 24, 25 degrees coming up in the first couple days of May either. Hopefully the weather's going to spin around here and we're going to get some warm air coming up from down south, and that's going to warm everything up. But the grass fields look good so far. We'll just keep our fingers crossed and hopefully we get some good weather around the first week of May so we can cut them off.